Hello, good evening. I hope I am live now. So, welcome to another lecture in this channel, The Collegian. Today, we shall start with Hind Swaraj or Indian Home Rule, as you can clearly see from the thumbnail as well as the image on your screen. So, this is a book written by M.K. Gandhi, that is Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, our very dear Bapu or Gandhiji. Now, the text was published in 1909, and the British people, the European people actually, so they severely criticized the text, okay, and it was banned just after a year on charges of sedition. Sedition means when a book creates troubles for the British rulers, they used to term that book as seditious. Okay, so this was one such book that caused a lot of trouble to the English rulers. Now, what is written in this book? That we shall be going through in today's lecture as well as the concurrent lectures in the days to come. Okay, so without further ado, let's move on to the text itself. Let's see what is there inside the text. So, the first message that M.K. Gandhi or Gandhiji provides to the reader is that I would like to say to the diligent reader of my writings and to others who are interested in them that I am not at all concerned with appearing to be consistent. In my search after truth, I have discarded many ideas and learnt many new things. So, this is a message to the readers that you see, you are reading whatever I have written. Now, you must understand that my ideas, my perceptions about everything gradually sometimes have changed. Sometimes what I am writing now, it has undergone or it has undergone or it will be undergoing through a lot of changes in the days to come. So in future, I might not be the same person telling the same story to you. Okay, and what is he saying? In my search after truth, I have discarded many ideas and learned many new things. So I am on my journey to acquire knowledge. That is truth. Truth itself is knowledge. So in that journey, I have discarded. So I have got rid of. I have always avoided many ideas which I earlier had. And I have accumulated new ideas or new interests. So that is why he is saying that I've learned many new things. Old as I am in age, I have no feeling that I have ceased to grow inwardly, that my growth will stop at the dissolution of the flesh. So I am old in age and I have no feeling that I have ceased to grow inwardly. So I always believe that I have grown inside and that my growth will stop at the dissolution of the flesh. So when my body will not be there, it is not that my understanding or whatever I have understood shall not be there, because whatever I have understood I shall be providing them to my followers, and in that manner whatever I have accumulated over the journey of my life shall be provided to my followers. What I am concerned with is my readiness to obey the call of truth, my God, from the moment to moment. And therefore, when anybody finds any inconsistency between any two writings of mine, if he has still faith in my sanity, I would do well to choose the later of the two on the same subject. So since I have my purpose to serve my God, and my God is truth, the call of truth. So since I have this duty to obey, to serve truth, So I might, so whatever I have written, you might sometimes find that what was written earlier has been changed in the next book or in my next writings. So if you believe in my ideas, please always accept whatever I have written latest. So maybe something that I had written years ago, but what I am talking now, that is the actual truth. I have grown over the years. I have understood several other things that make me say what I am trying to tell or trying to convey today. Okay, so let's move on to um, the contents. And just a moment. And as you can clearly understand from the thumbnail as well as the topic that we are going to, that what topic we are going to talk today. So it will start with what is Swaraj, that is chapter 4. Okay, what is Swaraj? So here Gandhiji will be providing an idea of what actually the meaning of Swaraj, or if we translate that into English as home rule. Home means self rule, so we will be ruling ourselves. Okay, so let's move on to there. Just a moment. And here again, I think that this is worth mentioning, that it is certainly my good fortune that this booklet of mine is receiving wide attention. So this is again being written by Mahatma Gandhi. So whatever he is trying to say here, we need to read at least a bit of it from the explanation part. Okay, so what is he trying to say? It is certainly my good fortune that this booklet of mine is receiving wide attention. The original is in Gujarati. It has a checkered career. It was first published in the columns of Indian Opinion of South Africa. It was written in 1908 during my return voyage from London to South Africa in answer to the Indian School of Violence and its prototype in South Africa. So as I mentioned earlier, that the entire book was conceived while he was traveling from London to Cape Town. Okay, and if you Google it, you will obviously be getting the basic informations from Wikipedia itself. So I'm not going deep into that. But what we need to keep in mind, there are three facts. That number one is the entire text was written in Gujarati and later it was translated. The Gujarati edition was banned by the British government. The book was published in 1909 and it was banned in the year 1910. Okay, and it was written in during a voyage. So let's move on to that chapter, that specific chapter. Okay, also here is a message that a portion of this we need to read. If we find this area, that I might change the language here and there if I had to rewrite the booklet. But after the stormy 30 years through which I have passed, I have seen nothing to make me alter the views expounded in it. So when is it written? 1938. Okay, so the book was published in 1909. So almost after 30 years. So after almost 30 years later, he is writing this, that you see, I have been through these 30 years and I have seen that whatever views I had 30 years ago have not changed. Okay, so earlier we were talking about his own voice, where he is saying that if you find that certain alterations are coming in the same topic that I had written earlier and I am writing later, please accept the later ones. So here he is trying to say that I have changed nothing. The book was relevant at that point of time. The book is still relevant today. when he was writing this. Okay, so let's move on to that chapter. Let's find, just a moment. It is chapter 4. So what is Swaraj? So we are at chapter 4. Now before talking about what is Swaraj, you can clearly see that the book is written in a conversational mode. The reader and the editor. So who is a reader? Who is an editor? Has he provided anything? If you go through the text, you will not find anything like that. It is also, or like, we should also keep in mind that when conversational tone is used in a book, the author actually goes more deep, or deeper, to a deeper level, to make people feel that if I had the same conversation with you, the layman, I would have said the same thing, or you would have experienced the same thing. Or, you see, as a layman, you could have asked me these questions, and I would have given these same answers. Okay. Now, who is this reader and writer? The writer, or the editor? The editor is Mahatma Gandhi himself. So whatever we shall be knowing from the editor, it will be Gandhiji's own voice. But whatever we shall be reading as the reader, we can conceive that the reader is an average Indian or any Indian. But we need to keep in mind that there was an eminent historian named S.R. Mehrotra, and he, or rather it was his research that he could find out that the reader, or the person whom Gandhiji kept in mind while creating the character of the reader, was Dr. Pranjivan Mehta. Okay? Or we can think that it can be any typical Indian countryman who was thinking of home rule or Swaraj at that time when this discussion arose. Okay, so everyone was thinking to get freedom from the Britishers, and this was a general cry from the heart of every Indian. So the questions that the reader is going to ask, or the views that the reader is going to propound here, we can obviously think that this is the views that were being born in the heart of any average Indian during that time. And remember the time, it was 1909. Okay, so let's start. What is Swaraj? So the discussion is on this topic. What is Swaraj? So reader, I have now learned what the Congress has done to make India one nation, how the partition has caused an awakening, and how discontent and unrest have spread through the land. Now it might feel awkward for us, the readers, when the reader, the character reader here in the text, is starting the lines in this manner. Now let me tell you that this is the 4th chapter. So if we go through the earlier 3 chapters, we can relate to this text, or relate to the words that the reader, the character reader, is starting here. Okay. Anyway, I hope it will not create a lot of trouble for anyone. So let's continue. I have now learned what the Congress has done to make India one nation. So the reader is saying that he has learned that what a dedication Congress had to make India become one nation. Now, by the time this text was being written, that is 1909, we need to keep in mind that India was not one nation. Or the idea of one nation India, though it was there, but India was actually divided into several princely states. Princely states, okay? So, and later it will be the task will be done by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, also our very dear uh, Prime Minister of that time, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. So these two stalwarts, they actually did several political situations in order to create the India that we are seeing today. India was actually divided into several parts. It was that is why Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel is called the Iron Man. Okay, so it was his own policies that he could create India united as we see it today. Okay, anyway, so how the partition has caused an awakening and how discontent and unrest have spread through the land. Now, several historical arguments will come up here. Was India partitioned in 1909? No. So certain alterations might have been made through the text. Okay, you can clearly understand. So if an average countryman asks Gandhiji or maybe any Congress leader of that time, the first question would come up that partition, why did you go through partition? So here, perhaps we are going to find an answer to that. Also, we need to keep in mind that though we consider that partition was done during the last years of the English rule, that is around 1945 to 47, but actually it had started much earlier when Kolkata was separated from Purbo Bongo, anyway, East Bengal, okay, or such activities were there. So people had this basic idea what partition is or what malices do partition breed in them. Okay, anyway. So the reader is saying that how discontent and unrest have spread through the land. So everywhere there was a massacre. Okay, so there was a massacre rather, and there was a very troublesome period of Indian history where the Hindus and Muslims were actually fighting against each other. The communal there was a riot-like situation. The communal harmony was lost. Okay, so the reader is trying to say about those things or speak about those things. I would now like to know your views on Swaraj. So earlier they had this talk. So if we read, so this is discontent and unrest. The third chapter is discontent and unrest. The second chapter is the partition of Bengal. So you can clearly understand what the reader is now talking about. So he has known these things about the partition. He has known about discontent and unrest. Now he is asking, what is your opinion about Swaraj? And this question is directly to Gandhiji or the editor. I fear that our interpretation is not the same as yours. So earlier he had this experience. If we go through the three chapters, part 1, part 2, part 3, or chapter 1 to 3. So earlier he might have had not a very not a kind of conversation with the editor where the editor agrees to whatever he's saying. The editor perhaps is citing other reasons. The editor is perhaps trying to put his own views regarding those topics. So here the reader is much careful earlier. So he's speaking this that I fear that our interpretation is not the same as yours. So I believe that whatever I feel, you won't be feeling the same. Okay. Regarding Swaraj, we need to keep in mind. So editor, it is quite possible. So the editor, it is quite possible that we do not attach the same meaning to the term. Okay, so yes, you are right. We do not attach the same meaning to the term. So the way you see it, I don't see it the same way. What you believe as Swaraj, I don't believe as Swaraj. Okay. Next line. You and I and all Indians are impatient to obtain Swaraj, but we are certainly not decided as to what it is. Now you, me, and every Indian, everyone is impatient. So everyone has become restless. We want Swaraj today. We shall not wait. Okay, but we are certainly not decided as to what it is. So we don't know it perfectly what Swaraj itself is. We don't have a very clear idea regarding Swaraj. To drive the English out of India is a thought is a thought heard from many mouths. So many people say that if we drive out, if we ask the British people to get lost, if we ask the British people to get out of India, we will obtain Swaraj. But that is not the case. Okay, Swaraj is something different. But does not seem that many have properly considered why it should be so. So I don't think that those who are saying that this is Swaraj, they have never thought that how can only driving the British people out of India can make us obtain our Swaraj. I must ask you a question. So I have a question to you. Do not think that it is necessary to drive away the English if we get all we want. Here it is a printing mistake, I think. It should be, do you not think? So don't you think that it is necessary to drive away the English? So do you think, actually it's a different kind of question. So actually he is trying to ask that if we get whatever we are currently wishing, so whatever we want to rule ourselves. We want free India. So if the British people provide us whatever our needs are, so do we need to drive away the English? Or shall we be driving away the English then? If the British people or if the English people, they actually accept whatever proposal we make to them, if they agree, do we need to drive them away? So this is the question that he is asking. Reader, I should ask of them only one thing, that is, please leave our country. So I will request them one thing, that please get out of our land. Okay, we don't want to see any of you in this land. If after they have complied with this request, their withdrawal from India means that they are still in India. They are still in India. Okay, so if after they have complied with this request, their withdrawal from India means that they are still in India. So if they comply with my request, so if they follow my request, so their withdrawal from India means that they are still in India. So even if they withdraw, they can still live in India. I should have no objection. So they can leave, they can leave or they can stay. But if I become able to ask them, if I become able to tell them that please get out of here, then I have no objection about this. So it means that I will get a certain kind of power to ask them get out of this land. So this power is necessary according to the reader. Then we would understand that in their language the word gun is equivalent to remained. So they might stay here. So in their own word, gun means getting out of a land. But they can remain here, but they are not in that power anymore. Okay, editor. Well then, let us suppose that the English have retired. What will you do then? So if we can think it in this way, that if the English people retire, okay, once their superannuation, retirement is actually known as superannuation. So when they are they're retiring from this country. What will you do then? Reader, that question cannot be answered at this stage. The state after withdrawal will depend largely upon the manner of it. So it cannot be clearly answered. Okay, nobody can answer this at this point of time. The state after withdrawal will depend largely upon the manner of it. So the way they will be getting out of this land, it shall depend on it. If, as you assume, they retire, it seems to me we shall still keep their constitution and shall carry on the government. So, if they retire, if they get out of this land, we shall continue with the system, the governing system that they have provided to us. We shall be using the same and shall start governing ourselves. If they simply retire for the asking, we should have an army, etc., ready at hand. So, if according to the way, if you according to the way you are saying, so if they get out of this land immediately, so we need to have an army, a standing army to protect ourselves. We should therefore have no difficulty in carrying on the government. So, if we can get together our own army, it will not be a problem to create our own government, to rule ourselves in our own terms. Editor, you may think so, I do not. But I will not discuss the matter just now. I have to answer your question, and that I can do well by asking you several questions. Why do you want to drive away the English? So, the editor says that you may think so. You are thinking perhaps in that manner, but I don't. But I will not discuss the matter just now, so I'm not going to discuss this currently. Because I have certain questions to ask you. I have to answer your question. So whatever you have asked, I need to answer that question. But in order to answer the question of yours, I need to ask you certain questions in order to clarify your thought process. Okay. So the first question is, why do you want to drive away the English? So what is the reason why you want to see the English people getting out of this land? What is the reason? Reader, because India has become impoverished by the government. So India is the disgusting situation that India currently stands in is a result of British governance. So it is due to the British government and their kind of ruling, the system of their ruling, that the nonsense situation that they have created in this land. They take away our money from year to year. The most important posts are reserved for themselves. We are kept in a state of slavery. They behave insolently towards us and disregard our feelings. Okay, so he is giving 3 or 4 reasons. Number one is they take away our money year to year. So every year they take away whatever we call is our own capital. Okay. Next, the most important posts are reserved for themselves. So we do not get proper employment. We are kept in a state of slavery. So they behave with us as their slaves. Their behavior is nonsense. They behave insolently. Okay. So their behavior is harsh towards us and they disregard our feelings. So they do not care for our feelings at all. Now the editor asks the question that if they do not take our money away, become gentle and give us responsible posts, would you still consider their presence to be harmful? So the editor is asking a kind of, or he is rephrasing whatever argument was given by the reader character here. So he asks, so if these people, they stop taking away our money, if they decide that our money won't be taken by them, if they start behaving in a gentle manner with us, and if they give us responsible posts in their offices, would you still consider that their presence to be harmful? So would you still consider that they are harmful for India? You need to clarify this question, or you need to clarify with your answer. Reader, the question is useless. It is similar to the question whether there is any harm in associating with a tiger if he changes his nature. Such a question is sheer waste of time. When a tiger changes his nature, Englishmen will change theirs. This is not possible, and to believe it to be possible is contrary to human experience. So the reader says that this is an useless question. This is not going to happen. We can bring another example that since we cannot make the tail of a dog straight, so or we refer something impossible with that kind of that phrase that it is an attempt to make the curly tail of a dog straight. So this means actually an impossible task. So the reader is actually trying to convey the same kind of thing. It is similar to the question whether there is any harm in associating with a tiger if he changes his nature. So you are asking as if, can we create a friendship with a tiger if the tiger changes its nature? So if a tiger does not hurt any human being, so can a human being become a friend with a tiger? Such a question is sheer waste of time. So this is an wastage. So this question is nonsense. When a tiger changes his nature, Englishmen will change theirs. So now the reader is saying something that an average Indian had experienced at that time. That the English people they are like their behaviors were brutal. Okay, so they always considered people as their slaves and behaved just like that. So they cannot change their behavior, and it cannot happen. Since this cannot happen, we need not to think about this. This is useless to consider or to think something like this, that they will change one day themselves. Okay, and he's saying that when a tiger changes his nature, so when a tiger will change the way it creates violence, Englishmen will change theirs. So only at that point of time I will believe that the Englishman can change whatever or the way they are behaving or their behavior. This is not possible. So a tiger's nature cannot be changed. So this is an impossible thing, and to believe it to be possible is to contrary to human experience. And if we believe that someday the English people can change, it will be absolutely opposite to what experiences we had till today. Okay, so whatever experience we had till now with the English people, this is absolutely against that. Editor. Supposing we get self-government similar to what the Canadians and the South Africans have, will it be good enough? Suppose that we get self-government, self-rule. So we become self-government, or we earn the position of self-governance just like what the Canadians and the South Africans have. Will it be good enough? So what or what kind of self-governance that the Canadians or the South Africans had at that time? The editor is asking the question to the reader that if we get that kind of self-governance, well, I need to clarify the kind of governance that the Canadians and South Africans had at that time. It was like the British people will not be participating in governance, but they will aid everyone, the rulers of that time. Okay, so maybe there is an elected person, but that person will be guided by the British people. So the editor is asking this question to the reader: do you consider or do you want that kind of self-governance? Will you be happy with something like that? Reader, that question also is useless. Why? We may get it when we have the same powers. We shall then hoist our own flag. As is Japan, so must India be. We must own our navy, our army, and we must have our own splendor. And then will India's voice ring through the world. So, this is also an useless question. We may get it when we have the same powers. So, maybe we can have this. But we need to have this kind of power. What power? We shall then hoist our flag. So we need to have this power that we are governing ourselves. We shall be hoisting our own flag. As is Japan, so must India be so. The way Japan is doing today, India should have the same kind of authority over itself. We must own our own navy, so we must have a navy, our own army, and we must have our own splendor, our own faith, our own beliefs, our own power that will radiate to the world what India is. And then will India's voice ring through the world. So only then India as a country will earn its place of repute among other nations. When India will be free. Editor, you have drawn the picture well. Okay, so now I know what you are actually asking for. Now I have a clear idea of your views. So now what you want is, in effect, it means this, that we want English rule without the Englishmen. So we need English people or like English rule, but not the Englishmen in our country. You want the tiger's nature, but not the tiger. So earlier they were also talking about something related to tiger. Anyway, here again he is talking something like that. So you want tiger's nature. So you want the way the British people are governing us. So you need that power. But you don't need that tiger in our country. Okay, so that's what you are asking for. I can understand from your argument. So that is to say, you'd make India English. So you want to make India into another English nation. And when it becomes English, it will be called not Hindustan but Englistan. So it will, if India, whatever makes India India, if you want to take away all those things, if you want to replace that with the English customs or English system of governance, it will not be Hindustan anymore. It will be Englistan. This is not the Swaraj that I want. So I have a difference, or we have a difference of opinion in this point. I want something else. I mean something else uh, that you are currently not understanding. Okay? Anyway, so the reader is saying, I have placed before you my idea of Swaraj as I think it should be. So the reader says that I have given you what my ideas are. If the education we have received be of any use, if the works of Spencer, Mill and others be of any importance, and if the English Parliament be the mother of parliaments, I certainly think that we should copy the English people. So whatever I have learned from the works of Spencer, Mill and such people, such English politicians, if I have learned these things, if we have learned these things, we must be following the same kind of governance that the English Parliament does. The way English Parliament is governed, we must follow that kind of governance. Okay, so, and this is to such an extent that just as they do not allow others to obtain, and this is, we need to believe, or we need to understand that, just a moment, and this is to such an extent that just as they do not allow others to obtain a footing in their country, so we should not allow them or others to obtain it in ours. So since they do not allow anyone to enter into their country. As I hope you can understand that the pain that the reader was actually, uh, or and any average Indian had at that time. So this is being reflected here, that the English people, they didn't like Indian people in their country, in their land. So they hated these people, the Indians. And the reader is actually asking for justice, that since they didn't let others or let us stand in their country, we shall not let them stand in our country as well. What they have done in their own country has not been done in any other country. So whatever they have done, the way they have behaved with English, they have behaved with people from other nations, they must face the same kind of treatment in these countries. So the way any average Indian had experienced or were treated in their land, the British people must get the similar kind of treatment or behavior in our country or in our land. It is therefore proper for us to import their institutions. So it will be absolutely right to import their institutions, to import their process of thinking, their institutions means the way they run or govern their institutions, their policies. But now I want to know your views. Anyway, so I believe that you should express your own views regarding this. Okay, so we are stopping here today. I hope that this video meant useful to you. So please share this video. Also subscribe to this channel. And if you like this video, please press the thumb icon. So we shall be coming with the next part in tomorrow's class. And this is the last day of this year. Anyway, so let's meet tomorrow. So thank you for attending.